Kia ora. Now, in most instances, it is me that is saying to people, just cool your jets a little, dial down the conspiratorial mindset and just go over everything again and triple check, because sometimes I do think that people get quite carried away, and it's human nature. We want to see mystery and intrigue in places. It's just dangerous when we're seeing it all the time when it isn't there, because it can really affect people's lives. But what I wanted to talk about is this Titan submersible that was designed by OceanGate, and it's currently missing. It's gone on a mission to go down and view the Titanic. So they have paid crew members. So these people have paid $250,000, I think, US dollars, to be trained up as part of the crew to be able to then go down to the ocean floor to see the Titanic. And, what a fascinating thing to do. And, some people really are adventurous and they like to really push the envelope. And that aspect of people could actually be contributing to the disappearance of this submersible. They have oxygen supplies for 96 hours in total, I believe, and they've probably got 40 hours left. So it's getting pretty serious for them if they are indeed even alive and fighting for their lives. Can you imagine what it is like inside this 21-foot sub? The tensions, the stress. How are they working as a team? Has someone panicked? What has gone wrong? And who is at fault here? Because this will come down to human error, unless, of course, it's a giant squid or, they've gone into another dimension. We may find them, and it could be an amazing story of survival. We might find them, and it could be a story, this tragic warning. But we may never, ever see Titan or these 5 people again. Who are the people on board? Well, I think it's the OceanGate CEO. He's at least a founder of this company, and his name's Stockton Rush. He'd be about 60, early 60s now. In 1981, he was 19 years old, and he was the world's youngest jet pilot to gain his accreditation, I think, to be able to fly transport planes. I think that's how it is. But he has really been pushing himself in life to, more and more intense situations. Could he be someone, because of all the risks that he's taken in his life, be someone that could forge ahead with a mission when it wasn't safe, just because it's an extra risk adding on, and it's something that he really operates on and craves and needs to get, it's a pretty intense thing to think about, because there's other lives there, right? And who are these people? Well, one of them is Hamish Harding. He's a British billionaire. He lives in Dubai, and he's got quite a history of adventurer, of being an adventurer. I think one of the things that he has done is he went with Buzz Aldrin to the Arctic Circle, and during the course of that mission, Buzz Aldrin became the oldest person to do that. So he's had a lot of adventures in his life. And again, you'd be looking for more and more opportunities for that thrill and to break barriers, you know, to have a different experience from the last one. And yeah, there is this person called Paul Henry Nargelet. He's 77, and I think Hamish, he must be in his 60s, maybe 60s, 70s. I'm not sure, maybe not that old, but Paul Henry, he's 77, and he's a historian, you could say. His passion in life is the ship, the Titanic. So he's kind of on board as researcher, as expert. I guess he would be guiding or letting people know where they could go to explore while they're down there. I don't think they were planning to be down there very long. I think this was just sort of supposed to be this day trip. I don't know how long they've trained for, but they've been trained up as crew. So they're called crew, not passengers. They've learnt a lot of the things to do with the engineering and the craft and everything, right? The other two people, so they're originally, well, the father's originally from Pakistan. He is called Shazada Dawood, and his son is on board as well. And his son's a teenager. So Shazada, he's left behind a wife and a daughter called Alina. I think they live in England. Now, this is what I find really interesting, because can we consider what's been happening? Was it in San Francisco where that UAP was filmed falling out of the sky, the green light? And, you know, and then we've got the ridiculous story from these young men and their father, who I think have decided just to capitalize on, you know, an actual event, and they've called 911 to say that there are 2 alien life forms in their property. But the interesting thing about Mr. Dewood, he is on the board of trustees of the SETI Institute. Have you heard of that? It's SETI. So think Jodie Foster in Contact, okay? And SETI Institute is all about searching for proof of extraterrestrial life, extraterrestrial intelligence. And they're based in California. I think, I'm not sure what they've got to do with that Hat Creek Radio Observatory. You know, the place where there's all the satellite discs out in the, you know, Northern Californian desert. But, you know, they explore, you know, they're exploring, they're looking for extraterrestrial intelligence, and they're a not-for-profit organization. I don't know. You know, I've been dying to know who these endangered adventurers are. I'm absolutely devastated to see that there's a teenage boy there. You know, I guess that's his choice and everything. And if, you know, a parent is in a position to offer a lot of experiences and to put your children out into the forefront where they really have, you know, advantage and everything. I mean, I think that's very lucky, and that's wonderful for that family. This was always going to be a very dangerous mission. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like, you know, maybe someone should have to be an adult and be able to, I don't know, sort of somehow legally agree on their own that they're putting their life in danger, you know. Yeah. So the craft apparently had just gone had started descending into the ocean, and after 1.5 hours, communication was lost with OceanGate, the organization that created this craft. There's a lot of talk about the corners that were cut, okay, and this could come down to Stockton Rush. You know, he considers risk differently. He can say yes to things when other people wouldn't. This is just something that I feel. Apparently, there's no buoy. Americans say buoy. We say buoy down under, B-U-O-I. Apparently the craft, it would have been possible to fit the craft with a buoy to rise to the surface so that if anything happened, you know, there is some sort of marker on the surface of the ocean to show that they are around. And that wasn't added. Apparently there were shortcuts with materials to save cost. How I feel about it is the people that are going to pay to train to take this sort of mission, if they're going to pay $250,000 a piece, plus whatever else it might cost them in preparations, etc. We don't know if that is all encompassing or if they're training and other bits of travel and everything. I mean, it could all add up to much more, but I feel personally that, you know, if you're going to ask for 250,000, ask for 350,000 and make the vessel safe. But, you know, I think there's some I think human psychology can really be at play here. They could have definitely have just had some sort of accident. They might have been hit by a giant squid. They may have just lost communication and have been all right until such time as they got to the bottom, and then something else occurred, like they got tangled in debris of the Titanic, something like that. There could have been a breach in the submarine and they imploded, instantly dying. They could be down there panicking now and going utterly crazy, or they could be really holding it together and just going through every motion that they can to survive. We don't know. This craft is only 5 years old and it has had in the past communication issues. So where, you know, they have lost contact with OceanGate on other missions. So why was this not something that was, you know, what troubleshooting happened here? Why are they still having the same problem? So I've been very interested to find out, you know, the manifesto, you know, who's on board, because I think that is part of the big picture here. Who have people spoken to about them going on the mission? And could there be sabotage for some reason because of who these people are? I find it really fascinating just with what's happening with, you know, UAP sightings and things like that. That it turns out that Shazada Dawood is on the board of trustees, you know, for the SETI Institute. I mean, that just fascinates me. And it deeply concerns me, the history of OceanGate, Stockton Rush, and perhaps, you know, perhaps being someone that hasn't been cautious enough. I mean, somebody's decided to launch. They are the only launch of this Titan sub this year. It was to be the one and only mission. Weather has not allowed them in the past to launch, and in fact I think they sort of went out in between really nasty weather systems, cyclones over the ocean and everything. So they could have struck something to do with weather, currents in the water. I'm not sure, of course, but that could be a factor. You just have to think, how much pressure were they feeling to launch? What discussions did they have? And did the crew take a vote, or were they kept in the dark about many things? Why cut corners with materials when you could just charge more money and people would still pay it? Because it's just a fact of life that, you know, people are looking for more and more intense experiences. If they can afford it, they can really turn the world, and, you know, that means from stratosphere to the ocean floor, they can turn it into their playground. They can go up on planes and experience weightlessness. They can practically go into space. They can jump from 100,000 feet, and they can dive down in the ocean to go to see the Titanic. And you know, safety first, right? They shouldn't be bowing to pressure. And I would love to know how it came about that they've decided that everything is right to go ahead. You know, what are the protocols? How have they reached these agreements? Who had the final say? Was it, you know, a group decision? Was it down to one person? Who decides? And then, you know, what type of agreement have they got from the crew that they're taking on this risk, that there might be extra risk that they don't, you know, that they could really mitigate if they wanted to wait. Yeah, it's fascinating me. But most people are just thinking that, look, something's gone wrong with the craft. They haven't been able to operate it properly. Yeah. And it's just, you know, this technical event that has just put them in danger. Perhaps they're, you know, and they could already be dead. So, you know, look, it could be this amazing story of survival and just an incredible event that will become movies and everything. These people are going to be like sort of heroes, you know. It could be just a devastating tragedy, but they're recovered, but they're not alive. Or, you know, they could never be seen again, ever. Ever. It's just like they've gone into another dimension. And speaking of other dimensions, that's kind of what my idea is of UAP. I think they would be more likely to be interdimensional travelers than intergalactic. But, you know, that's just, what do I know? It's funny because I saw that footage that was shot maybe from a police officer's camcorder or something of the green light falling from the sky. And in 1999, New Year's Eve, 1999, so indeed, yes, I was partying like it was 1995, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that could be a factor, but no, I know that I saw it. I can see this in my mind's eye now. It's just actually had people at the home I lived in. I was just on the balcony. I just looked up above the roof of the cottage and through the big modern bay fig tree, and this perfect globe, fluorescent, this perfect little sphere just with these little, like drawn like this. Like fluorescent, and then yeah, can't see, but just like that, it just went flash through the sky for a very short part of the sky, appeared and disappeared. And it did look like that. I mean, what fell from the sky, was it in San Francisco? Somewhere like that. And that's interesting. That's where the SETI Institute is, I think, or they've got, yeah, they're in Northern Cali. But that's what that looked like, except this one was larger. This was sort of smaller, more of a fluorescent green. And I did go around and I checked, was I looking at any sort of fairy lighting? Did anyone at the home have sparklers or anything like that? Was it? Yeah, no, I know what I saw, right? So as cray as that sounds, because I actually, you know, I'm pretty skeptical, okay? But I don't really think, I don't know, I don't see how it could be intergalactic travelers that are arriving, if anything is here. I really think it's interdimensional. And if creatures are here, as, you know, these whistleblowers are coming out and saying, I mean, he's only seen the paperwork and the, you know, why is it that what has been leaked, they show vertebrates? I mean, would you think that they would be carbon-based? They would, well, I guess everything in the universe is, but why would they necessarily be vertebrates in our form? I mean, we developed here vertebrates. Our skeleton is so similar to, you know, bats, whales, okay? We're all from one. And you know, if aliens are vertebrates and in that sort of general structure, I mean, it just makes sense that they're just from the earth, from another dimension, another time and place, maybe. I don't know. But, you know, I just found that really interesting, the timing of that. What are the odds? I don't know. To me, I found it interesting. So, you know, the usual adventurers that have done some pretty amazing things in their life and have had some really incredible experiences, and some of whom are older. Does it make them sort of more cautious or less cautious? But there's a teenage boy, an hour and a half, and I had considered that after an hour and a half, someone had just was not dealing, had thought that they were prepared, but they just were not dealing with what they were doing, didn't want to go, somehow panicked, have caused a situation in the craft. Another thing I thought was maybe, look, do we know if any one of these people have a terminal illness? I mean, I don't know. It's a terrible thing to take other people with you, but think of the MH370. You know, human beings and psychologically were capable of some very dark things and of being quite selfish. Now, I don't want to cast aspersions on these people. I don't know them. But, you know, would someone want to be down there and stay down there? I wouldn't, you know, obviously we'd have to rule out most of these people. So I don't know about that, but I think, you know, did a teenage boy panic? Or is he okay and he felt very safe? Yeah, I obviously the most, what's the word again? Oh my God. Obviously the most likely thing that's happened is there's been technical difficulty. It must be terrifying. I hope they're alive and I hope they're fighting for their lives and can just hang on. I hope that they're just on the surface and that they're able to be found, because if they're down on the ocean floor, even if they're located, they need time to bring them up very, very slowly, and then they've got to, yeah, get them out. They're sending hyperbolic chambers, so that, you know, these decomp chambers, so that they can equalize the oxygen and nitrogen and everything in the blood and help them not experience the bends once they're up, especially if they have to bring them up speedily. But yeah, I mean, do you guys find that interesting at all, you know, who the people are, and, you know, would they take extra risks or not? People do some crazy things in their quest for achievement. You know, people are very ambitious, and they can also be quite dangerous. Maybe that's just in the movies, but I don't think so. So I hope there have been no unnecessary risks. I hope that, you know, the parts that they've used and everything, okay, they might have been saving some money, but look, you know, maybe they felt that through experience they knew where they could save money, or just save the submarine having weight. I think you know, wouldn't you rather that they didn't have a toilet on there, but they put the buoy on there, the buoy? Apparently there is a toilet. So, I mean, that's a small amount of space and maybe not very much weight, but every bit would count on this 21-foot ship. And I think I'd rather have many more safety equipment and technologies, you know, than have a toilet, because they were only intending to go down for a day, and they should be prepped to not need to go, to not eat, etc. Be well prepared physically as well as mentally, and as well as intellectually, armed with their knowledge. But yeah, it is such a fascinating and dreadful situation. And, you know, of course, this is a private, personal experience. It's their own decision. It's their folly. And yet, you know, you've got, is it the BC Navy? You've got American Coast Guard. I mean, this is international resources out now to search for these 5 souls. I hope they're found, and I hope they're alive. But yeah, I think we need to accept that we'll never know what happened, and there's going to be a lot of speculation, and these poor people may never ever be seen again. And, you know, it's like they've just gone from one universe into another. Can you imagine the tension, the fear, you know, even if they're holding it all together, there's some very experienced people who have gotten through life-threatening situations on board. But yeah, there's also a teenage boy, and all right, was this about anything? I don't know. Just wanted to chat about it. I'll speak to you later.